ADC Talks.
Oh, I don't look into the camera. I look at you, I assume. You don't care?
I don't really. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a very casual thing,
sure.
especially because it wasn't planned.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
So I do this podcast for the local ADC community. Whenever
Okay.
it's in English, we share it on the European website and newsletter. So it's a bit broader community. Plus now ADC Europe is in partnership with the One Club.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a bigger audience.
Sure. Yeah.
And I just didn't want to miss this opportunity of talking to
Perfect.
Stefan Sagmeister. But I was thinking, well, in case people or some of the listeners were living under a rock and they wouldn't know who you were, and they would like meet you on the street and they say, wow, what do you do? Well, I'm a designer. Anything I know that you did of? Like, what would be the, I don't know, top 3 things that you tell people, well, I kind of did this and that to...
Well, that's pretty easy. Meaning, we started the studio 35 years ago, and really started it to the design for music. So we did many covers for many not famous bands and some very famous ones, including the Stones, the Talking Heads, Lou Reed, and good number of others. And when that
The Stones.
when that became repetitive, I thought to change it, and I started to do a sabbatical every 7 years, so that was a very good vehicle for change. And then we did many other things that are also interesting, like do work for NGOs whose work I thought was important. We also did commercial stuff, like what graphic design companies usually do. And about, I would say, 15, good, maybe 18 years ago, a designer who worked for us, Jessica Walsh, became a partner with the idea that she would do most of the commercial work, which would free me up to do the non-commercial work. Namely, we made a movie, we made many exhibitions. And
Like very famous exhibitions.
exhibitions that traveled through the world in many museums, and we designed them not for designers, we designed them for general audiences, so they tended to have very large numbers of visitors. And then that became so separated, meaning that Jessica basically did all of the commercial work and I did all of the non-commercial work, that it made sense to separate it again. So now Jessica has her company and I have mine again, and we don't do any commercial work. And that I'll talk about it today here in Vilnius, about what that looked like the last 5 or 6 years. But it's still similar to what I did before, meaning like, take a big subject like, let's say, happiness or beauty, and make a communication design piece out of it in various directions. Right now the theme is probably best described as long-term thinking, or the idea that there are 2 very different ways to look at the world. One is through the short term, like all media, social and traditional, looks at it, which renders most things negative. And there's another way to look at the world, which is from the long term, which we try to look at it, which renders most things positive. And because we are completely surrounded by short-term information, many of us get a view of the world that is way too negative, and we try to, as good as we can, to correct that somehow.
And one of the things you did to correct that is the better now?
Yes, yeah. So there's...
So people who don't know you should look up that on the internet?
I mean, you could
get a
look,
book.
if you would look, if you would look up my name, Stefan Sagmeister, now is better, or any of these things, you'll get a lot of information. Partly, meaning you can look it up on our website, but there's also there's many articles that are easy to find. There's only a short film on Now is Better, like a 5-minute thing that we made. There is no long, like the only really feature film that we made was about happiness. It's called The Happy Film.
Okay.
That's also available on Amazon Prime, I think. Yeah.
Okay, look that up.
Okay.
Okay, another question that I had. Okay, so you're, I don't know, the biggest design celebrity in the world. So you've done thousands of interviews, I assume. What is the most typical question, most frequently asked question that, I don't know, maybe you're even annoyed hearing it time and again?
I think not so much now anymore, but probably the question that I've been asked the most often would be if I still have scars. I think that was the most I think that somehow, because that poster is so old by now, that has receded. I haven't been asked in a while, but that used to be a very, very frequent question, yes.
Okay, is there any question that you wish somebody would ask you? Like, what would be the coolest question that somebody could ask Stefan Sagmeister right now, and nobody thought of it for some dumb reason?
Meaning, I have to say that I've done so many of these things, and I've been on so many podcasts that I have difficulty coming up with a question that I haven't been asked in the past.
So you have all the answers ready, at the ready.
But I also have to admit that because the many questions are so repetitive, I prefer doing answers by email, because I have vast repositories of questions and answers, and I can escape this process sometimes by cutting and pasting. And I think also many of them actually are part. There's a section on the site that says Q&As, and there is many questions in there and many answers to it.
Okay. Looking at your work, at the books, at the films, and I couldn't but make the connection with the work of Orlando Wood. I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's this book called Lemon, How Did the Advertising Turn Sour?
Okay,
Or the advertising brain turn sour.
Yeah.
He bases his work on Ian McGilchrist, this neuroscientist.
Yeah.
That basically, they argue that whenever the left brain starts dominating on the individual level, you become this short-term, flat, function-only, goal-oriented, and so on and so forth, because the left brain is responsible for one type of attention, while the right brain is responsible for 4 other types of attention. And we do the same things, but a bit differently with the hemispheres. But the interesting thing that they talk about is that it also happens on a societal level, not just on an individual level. And you see this like a pendulum shift from right to left, and it's connected with these inventions, basically technological inventions or big inventions in the world, like you discover the printing press or something like that. And I was like, I couldn't but think that you are the evangelist of the right brain, of the aesthetics, of the beauty, of the form over function, which is so lacking nowadays. Would you call yourself that?
Well, I'm definitely not against function, but I'm very much against designers who think that design is just about problem solving. I would agree, and I think I take the function seriously. I think that design, in most cases, with a couple of exceptions, in most cases, in order to be design, needs to have a function that separates it from art. But I also need that there has to be an element of delight in there. If it's function only, it's for one thing very easy to do, and I think many designers who go only for function are actually lazy, because it's quite easy to do something functional. But I do believe that delight has to be part of that, maybe on the same level. And with that, I'm actually surprisingly very much in agreement with many of the original Bauhaus guys. Like, you know, I have a talk from Max Bill where he proclaims in the 50s, after he created the school in Ulm that, you know, was probably the most anal, functionally oriented version of the Bauhaus ever made, that he thought that if we want to do good work, we have to lift beauty up onto the same level as function, because only then, for one thing, beauty of itself is a function, but only then good work is possible.
Amazing.
And so I would probably be an equal opportunity person where those two things really need to work together. I hate things that need to have a function but don't have it. I love things that have zero function but don't need to have it. You know, meaning like I don't think that a piece of art needs to have a function, or I don't think that, I don't know, a memorial needs to function. But if you're creating a hospital or a school, it better functions. And so I'm critical of schools that don't function well. But of course, I'm at least as critical of schools that were designed for being functional only and have zero delight in there. You know, meaning those are just as bad.
Okay, thank you for a delightful conversation. I'm getting these non-verbal cues that you need to go, they want to steal you.
Maybe, yes.
So thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Yes.
ADC Talks.